thewellnesscouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives.
Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, featuring your hosts Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Julie Tenner.
And I'm Bridget Wood. And today's podcast is sponsored by Rumble's Paleo, who kindly supported our retreat with some beautiful little gorgeous chocolate chip cookies. And they have a snack range that's made from the best local ingredients. So they don't use any gluten, no grains, no dairy, no sugar, no fruit, no preservatives, and they're all real food products, and they're made in Melbourne, which is really lovely.
So particularly if you're time poor or you're looking at how do I get more nutrition into my kids or myself in a day, they have it sorted for you. So gorgeous Jen and her partner run Rumble's Paleo, and they have these amazing snacks.
They're really cool. And so, I ate more than my fair share, I'm pretty sure. But today we are talking about attachment play. And with us we have Marion Rose. Welcome, Marion.
Thank you so much, Bridget. Lovely to be here.
So, Marion, I was looking at your website this morning and I noticed what an enormous resume you have. So I just thought we might start there, and I was really wanting you to check that I hadn't left anything off because it's so huge and such a body of wisdom there. So Marion has started with a Bachelor of Science, a PhD in postnatal depression, diploma in counselling, a diploma in psychotherapy, which was psychosynthesis psychotherapy, is that right?
Yes.
Postdoctoral research in what babies can understand.
Yes.
Level 2 aware parenting instructor. Yes. Non-violent communication training, and way more, including the field project in aligned parenting and a mother of 2.
Yes.
Have I left anything off?
You have been busy.
I did a few other things. In my 30s, I really got into birth, so I trained in hypnobirthing and then calm birth, and used those with the births of my babies when they were babies. So I've done quite a few other trainings as well, but you got the main ones.
It's amazing. I also loved that what I really picked up from your website was helping mothers to love their lives and helping children to flourish.
Yes. So in alignment with your work, really.
Yes,
I think,
it is.
a little bit of my history is that, as you can see from what you'd read out, I really started off more looking at babies and what they need and how we can really help them to grow up to be human beings who are kind of happy and satisfied and connected and fulfilled. And along the way, I realized that actually what I really was called to do was to actually help mothers so that we could actually, we have the resources so that we can help our babies and children have those things. So, I think it's very connected with what you're doing.
And it's a really compelling journey that you've been on, and I guess it prompts the question, why? Like, why did you start where you were, and I guess where were you emotionally as a woman and mother that led you on that path?
I love that question because obviously. I'm so grateful because my personal and my professional lives have been so in tandem. And it really was, as a teenager, I was just so incredibly shy and scared, and I just couldn't even talk to people, and I just was like, why am I like this? I really needed to understand. So that's really what took me on the whole psychology journey, and then that wasn't enough, and then so that's how I got into training as a psychotherapist, because I really knew that I wanted to first of all understand why I was the way I was and help myself be happier and more fulfilled. And along the way, I realized that it was so much to do with, my birth. I was premature and I was in an incubator for 5 weeks. And I really just saw so much of it had actually stemmed from those early experiences. And so then, of course, I wanted to help other people and parents really, so that their babies didn't need to grow up and wait until they were adults to have therapy, that they could help their babies and children so that they could, actually start off having a happy life without 10 years of therapy like I did. So it was really that, just understanding, I suppose, having a real sensitivity to babies and how much they're affected by their births and their early experiences. And that's really what got me into this work, and that still drives me so passionately to just help us understand how sensitive babies and children are and how much they need to be heard and understood and have their feelings listened to. So that's kind of my passion still.
Which we love. Bridget and I have both done your courses and been in workshops with you over the years, which is absolutely your genius, which is why we have you on today.
Yeah.
So we just want to scale it right back and start at the beginning for our listeners. Are you able to give us a summary in your wisdom about what you see aware parenting parenting as and what it offers children and parents?
I love that question. So for me, aware parenting is kind of like the third, I often call it the third way, because, we've come from mainstream parenting, and that's kind of come from behaviorism and, these kind of quite negative beliefs about human beings, that we're kind of born sinful or bad, and we need to kind of learn to be loving and compassionate through punishments and rewards. And really, we're really evolving as human beings to actually see that that's not how things are, that we actually come into the world loving and compassionate. And it's really only when our needs aren't met or our feelings aren't listened to that we start behaving in ways that can be challenging. So what I love from an aware parenting perspective, that all the things that parents usually find challenging, like babies not going to sleep or waking up frequently, or toddlers kind of hitting and biting and throwing things and not cooperating, and children wanting to be on the iPad all the time or not listening, or, hitting their brother, up to teens kind of, using drugs and, staying out at all hours. All those things can actually be understood really from this lens of connection and emotions. And that's what I love about it, is that really has a very compassionate way of looking at babies and children and teens, but also very tangible ways to actually to help them so that they can return to that more compassionate, connected, natural self that they are.
So what spurred you on to finding aware parenting as a tool for yourself?
Lovely. Yeah, so, I'd done all done my PhD, and I did all that postdoctoral work. So I'd really studied things from that kind of academic side of developmental psychology. And then all my psychotherapy training, I'd looked at how babies, learn their concepts about themselves. And then when I was pregnant with my daughter, so she's now 14, that was when I came across aware parenting. And for me, it was like this light bulb moment that not only, it really fits all the research, up-to-date research, it fits with all the therapy understandings we have, but it has this extra piece that even most of those don't have, which is that right from birth, babies are incredibly sentient, aware beings, and they have this natural capacity to heal from any challenging situations or experiences they have. So, if the birth doesn't go quite as we wanted it, they can heal from that from birth. They don't need to wait until they're 25 or 30 to start doing rebirthing. They can actually heal from birth, and they can heal from the daily stresses that all babies have. They can express their feelings, and it's through understanding that they can then sleep easily and restfully, and they can feel connected in their bodies and connected with us, and they can they'd be open to learning new things. And that kind of goes on in that way. And that's what I found for me. It was like when I was pregnant, I was like, oh my goodness, this is this thing. It fits with everything I know, but it has this extra piece. And, when I first started practicing it when my daughter was 3 months old, straight away I was like, this, what I love about aware parenting is not just a theory. You can actually try it out and actually really clearly see in your baby or child. And I'm sure you both have experienced this, that they really show us what a difference it makes when they're listened to and their feelings are heard. They're more relaxed, and they, I remember the first time with my daughter when I listened to her feelings, and she'd been kind of agitated and kind of avoiding eye contact and kind of restless at night. And the first time I listened to her in my arms and was really present with her, and I just listened, and afterwards she literally gazed into my eyes for about 15 minutes, and this whole kind of quality of presence entered the room, like when you're on a meditation retreat or something, and it was like being with this little Buddha, and it was like this, this is magic, this is so precious, and it's really through just actually listening to our babies and children, and rather than trying to stop them or trying to get them to calm down, it's actually listening to them so that they can naturally feel peaceful and calm. And so really from then on I was kind of hooked, and it has been ever since, just to kind of keep learning and growing and sharing this knowledge with people who are interested in it.
And the really interesting layer with aware parenting, which is so different, I suppose, to so many other approaches to parenting, is that it really sees the child as reflecting you to you. And we talk a lot about this idea of the mirror. And it's so much of of the child asking us to enter their world and see ourselves in them. And that's for so many mothers, the pain, right? And that's what I love in terms of what you do, is that you ask mothers to go into that and to really see what their children are trying to awaken in them, which is...
It's a paradigm flip, right? So instead of there's a problem with the child and we fix the child, it's actually what are they calling us in to fix within ourselves?
Yes.
Exactly. And that's what I love as well about aware parenting, is often, I certainly know that for myself, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this parenting thing to my daughter.
Yes.
And very quickly I was like, this is going to actually require me to change every belief I have about my own feelings and my own needs, and my own how much I get supported, and how I treat myself. I see so often parents come in and so beautifully and giving so much to their babies and children, and wanting to stay connected and not punish them and not reward them, and listen to their feelings and their needs. And then when we actually listen to them, they're not doing any of that for themselves. They're ignoring their needs, they're not listening to their feelings, they're judging themselves, they're shooting themselves, they're feeling guilty. And so it really invites us to actually treat ourselves in the same way. And of course, that's a whole kind of learning journey, to learn compassion for ourselves as mothers, which I know is just so much about the beautiful work that you are both doing.
So I want to just pull out of your beautiful Buddha story there, which I adored, was when you say listening to our children. Are you able to open that up a bit for our listeners?
Yes. And this can be the scary bit, because we're so much, we've come from that other paradigm earlier on, which was, you just leave babies to cry, and this punish them, and they don't have feelings and they don't have needs. And we came in kind of from the 60s onwards to babies and children do have feelings and needs, and of course we want to do everything we can to meet their needs. But then it came to this point where we kind of then every cry or every tantrum was seen as there's something wrong, we need to fix this, we need to stop the feelings. But what I love about aware parenting is really seeing that yes, babies and children do cry when they have a need that they need us to meet. And of course, it's really important we do everything we can, within our own resources to meet their needs. But they also do have feelings just like us, I did a workshop yesterday for 30 mums and dads, and I always start with this exercise where, if you've had a rough day and you're trying to tell your friend about your feelings, and I would invite the listeners to do this now. You imagine if you're telling your friend, I had a really rough day, and I found my mum, she didn't listen, and my partner kind of shouted at me, or whatever it is. But then your friend is kind of jiggling things in your face, or rocking you, or saying, "Are you thirsty? Are you hungry? Or no, you're tired? Or it's all right, sweetheart. No, you don't need to worry." And we kind of forget that they need to be heard as well. They have real feelings just like us. And sometimes if we think every feeling indicates a need, we can then actually not listen to what they're trying to tell us. So I always invite people to do that exercise, to go, oh gosh, if someone did that to me, I'd probably get a bit frustrated, and then I might even just give up trying to tell them because they're not listening. So really, to go back to your question, it's actually at times, especially like in the evenings, which we can say a little bit more about why that is, but when we've fed them and we're holding them, and everything seems to be all their needs are met, but they're just kind of agitated, and maybe they're crying, or they're a bit kind of whingy. I don't really like that word. And then instead of trying to stop the feelings, it's actually just being incredibly present in our bodies. So holding them in their arms and saying, sweetheart, I'm right here with you. Maybe you have some things to tell me, and really just listening. What will often happen is that, babies, when all their needs are met, they all do have feelings like this. So they'll actually start to cry. And that's the piece around meeting our own needs and listening to our own feelings. Because all those feelings come up for us at that point. Oh my God, well, something's wrong, or, maybe she'll never trust me again. But really, when we can get support to listen to those feelings, and we can start to just play and try out, what would happen if I even listened to those feelings, even for just 5 minutes? How would that be for me, and how would that be for her? And, really observing how she is afterwards. And then maybe just increasing that. And what happens is that babies will then have big cries. They'll have a big... they'll have a big, big cry. And then if we can listen, what happens is at the other end, they'll come out of that, and they'll be, you know, like my daughter, they'll be calmer, they'll make eye contact, they'll be more relaxed in their bodies because they've actually told us this whole story. You know, it might be about their birth, or it might be about, you know, we went to the shops today and it was kind of busy and overwhelming, or, you know, gosh, I've just been born and this is a kind of different world to being in the womb, or you know, with our toddlers or our 3-year-olds. You know, all the feelings that they have every day. It's just kind of listening.
I adore that with aware parenting, that it really shifts the paradigm on tears from being something that's irritating or that there's something that's wrong, and so to stop them from feeling wrong, we need to stop the tears, to tears are healing, and it's just a way of getting all of that stuff stored in their body out.
Yes.
And we talked a lot with Lael Stone about holding spaciousness within our bodies so that our children have the ability to do that, to release. Yes.
So
we love
for me,
that
that's,
most.
you know, why I mentioned it even starting is, of course, what happens usually whenever we start to listen to our babies or our toddlers, or, you know, it's never too late to start this, as Lael probably told you, but, you know, of course, what will happen is all our unheard feelings will bubble up. So if we were left alone to cry as a baby, those feelings will start to come up in our bodies. Or, you know, if we were shamed when we had a tantrum, or we were, you know, every time we cried as a 3-year-old, we were given sweets, or, I don't know, told to, you know, whatever it was that was happened to us, that will all come up in us. And so, you know, I love what you both talked about. Our own journey is, of course, we need to start listening to those feelings in ourselves and starting to have, as Lael talks about, spaciousness, or, you know, just the capacity to be with more and more feelings in our own bodies, so that we can actually sit there and be present with our babies or children while they have these big feelings.
Yes.
Which is why it's such a transformational journey, because we can only really be present with them,
to the
with
degree.
their feelings, to the extent we can be present with those same feelings in ourselves.
Oh, love it, Marion.
And which leads us on, I think, nicely to attachment play, because there's 2 ways to listen to feelings, right? Isn't there? There's tears and there's laughter. So I'd love you to
awaken this, Marion, because Marion is about to, or has just launched your attachment play course, haven't you? So attachment play is a complete flip on looking at behaviour and how we work with our children around that. And as Bridget said, is the opposite. So children can laugh tears and frustration and anger out, or they can cry it out. And there's 2 different ways for us to hold that space. So Marion, attachment play, open it up for us.
Yeah, lovely. So attachment play, as you said so beautifully, there are 2 ways that children can release feelings. So they can release them through crying and tantrums, but they can also release them through play and laughter. And often this can be an easier way to come in to this paradigm, especially, you know, if your child's a bit older. And then tears can be a little bit more scary. Laughter can be a great way in, but also for anybody. And really, again, it's just this different paradigm rather than still, you know, often when we get into challenging situations, you know, our child, we've asked them 25 times to put their shoes on and they're still not, or, you know, they're not brushing their teeth, or they won't put their pajamas on, or whatever it is. And we start getting frustrated. Again, it's really looking at, first of all, what comes up in us, which is often, you know, the ways that we were brought up. So we'll either start using power over a little bit, we'll start getting a little bit frustrated, or we might kind of give up on our needs and disconnect and just go, oh, well, you know, if they don't brush their teeth, well, okay. But in aware parenting, it's really seeing, again, that children don't do those things for no reason. It's not because, you know, all the things that might start going through our heads, the things that we were told, you know, they're being a bit difficult, or they're trying to wind me up, or, you know, they're just trying to get my sweet spot. But it's really seeing that they're doing it either because they have an unmet need, which is often for connection or choice, or they have some feelings sitting right at the top there, which are stopping them from being that natural cooperative self. And we can go in and listen to more crying, that's one way in, but we can also move in with actual connection and laughter and play to help them, you know, with those 2 things, A, to feel more connected with us again, which is often one of the main causes for challenging behaviours, but also to get in there and help them laugh and release the feelings of usually frustration or powerlessness that are actually stopping them from cooperating. And it's like us, you know, if someone comes and says to you, like maybe at work, maybe with someone would come and say, you know, you really have to do this right now. You have to do it right now. And we would probably go, oh God, you know, do I really want to do this? But if someone came and said, I've got this great new project and it's going to be so fun and we can do it it together, and there's this great team, and it might be a bit tricky, but we can do it together, and it's going to be fun. And, we'll have smoothies, and we'll put music on. We would probably feel a lot more excited to do that thing. So again, it's really, what you both said is it's kind of putting ourselves in our children's shoes and actually saying they're no different to us. Why would they want to cooperate if they haven't got to choose anything, that day, or they're feeling disconnected, or it's just not fun for them, or, they're kind of having a sense of not having any choice in the matter. They're exactly the same as us. So when we actually use these particularly, and there's lots of different attachment play games, as you both know, that we can use to actually help with all those most frustrating and challenging things, like getting out the door or getting them to eat vegetables or things like that. So,
but there's so essentially with attachment play, there's ways to consciously play a game around the very thing that your child is struggling with, which allows them, one, the motivation to do it because now it's fun, but two, allows them an opportunity to deal with any fear, anxiety or whatever, and have an opportunity to kind of laugh that out. So if they're a particularly anxious child around, I don't know, the pool or something, right, that you might be a crocodile splashing around who's coming to get them. And so you're role-playing this fear-based scenario and allowing them the opportunity to laugh it out.
Absolutely.
So then,
I love that. It's not only just challenging situations, but it also helps them heal from stress and trauma. It helps them heal from phobias, all those, or even just fears of, as you say, the dog or the swimming pool. So it's just such a beautiful tool. And exactly, there are specific games. So once we go into it more, you can either use games preventatively. So you can use them preventatively to help your child stay connected and help them release feelings, so that they're less likely to get to that point of feeling frustrated or scared or powerless. So in the moment, they're more likely to cooperate. But also we can use them in the moment when things are challenging, so the type of games you're talking about, power reversal games, are often the best kind. So in the moment, exactly, if our child's afraid of a dog and there's a dog there, we might suddenly ask them to be a dog. So power reversal is giving them the power and putting ourselves in the position of powerlessness, but kind of doing it in a mock, silly, goofy way so that they can laugh about and release the fear. So we might be like, oh, don't chase me. No, don't chase me. Don't bark at me. Oh, no, don't. Oh, no. I'm running away and pretending to fall over. And, if they're laughing, they're actually releasing those fears.
And so many of these kinds of games are games that a lot of parents would probably play anyway, but not realise the power of them. So what are some of the games that a lot of parents might know of, and what's the meaning behind those games and how children use them to heal?
Yeah, I love that, Bridget. That's what I always say. You're using this anyway, and often it's dads. Unfortunately, dads kind of get the fun bit. Often, not always the case, but they're often doing these things, and it's not realising, as you say. So peekaboo, classic game, that's a separation game. So that helps babies understand the concept that, sometimes we're not always there. They're starting to learn this concept that they're different to us. They're separate human beings. But hide and seek is also a separation game. So that can be a great one you can play. If your child's starting daycare or kindergarten or school, playing a lot of kind of hide and seeky type games can help them with their feelings around separation. Or, rough and tumble games, like often dads will play that before bedtime and children will really invite that. And we're kind of going, no, we need to calm them down. But again, it's really trusting. They know that if they have a big rough and tumble game before bed, they're going to feel connected, they're going to get to laugh, they're going to actually release tension from their bodies so that they can sleep more easily. Can you think of any other games that you guys play already that you kind of suddenly realise?
Bridget wants me to talk about the games that I play, but I was like, I don't want to be that self-indulgent. I play heaps. Look, I have 3 kids, so my eldest is now 10, and I found aware parenting when he was about 18 months old. So that's a pretty long journey with aware parenting with me and 3 kids.
Yes.
So, but I think I might have said to you at an aware parenting, at a attachment play workshop in Melbourne once, that my son, when he was about 3, came up with this game called the Deer Hunter.
Oh, I remember.
Yes. And so and I was talking to Bridget about it because now I'm using it with my youngest, which is golden. Yay. It is golden. And then the older 2 are actually now playing back in it again, which is fascinating because they're not necessarily at the age where they play a lot of make-believe stuff anymore.
Yes.
So that's fascinating. So he came up with this idea of deer hunter. We played in the bedroom. So there's a baby deer, a mummy deer, a daddy deer, a grandpa deer, who knows, on the bed. Yes. And they get to choose who they are. So they'll change whether they're the baby that needs protecting or they're the dad that's going to do the protecting. So there's a lot of role play there around different fears and anxieties and power.
Love it.
And then someone is like around the bed who's, in inverted commas, the deer hunter who's trying to get the baby. So there's a lot of, wrestling, rough and tumble with the deer hunter. The daddy deer or mummy deer get to, beat them or protect the baby. If they're the baby's being stolen, and then the mummy deer and daddy deer have to steal it back and you can't have them. And like, it is this game that I was saying to Bridget, I never realised how golden it was in terms of, and we always play this before bed. So it's again this idea that you're saying that instead of this calm down, wind down, story time, off to bed, it's this let's get loud and, play out all of this separation anxiety and fear and I want more of mum and dad's attention or there's so many layers to this game that I'm realising the goldenness of the deer hunter.
Yeah, to find one like that as well, that kind of, as you say, it's working on so many different things. And what I love you saying is really trusting that, whoever chooses whichever role, and it sounds like they're probably changing roles, it actually is really trusting they know what they need to work on. They know what they need to play with so that they can release the feelings around it.
And that's a key point, isn't it? Because if you pay enough attention, your children are always telling you what they need.
Yes.
Because a recent one for us is my son, he's 3, and he has this obsession with poo, right?
Oh, yes.
And talking about bum bums.
Yes.
And so he wants me to read books about poo, but we didn't have any books about poo. So what I thought I'd do is change the words in a book to, from about trucks and diggers to a book about poo, which was perfect for him because he just used it as such a catalyst to let out all this laughter, and he was jumping around on the bed. And I think sometimes we can put our adult lens on and say, oh, no, that's not right, and I shouldn't encourage that.
Because he's just gone through toilet training too, so it kind of aligns with that as well.
Yeah. And he's very, very interested in poo and looking at his poo and stuff like that. And so listening to him and what he's telling me he needs and entering that play in a way that is healing for him is fun for both of us.
Yes, it is so much more fun as well, isn't it? They're going, no, we don't say bum bum, and, people don't like that. And I love that. It's brilliant. Game.
So what I'd really like to know is we were kind of thinking, what are the main areas that this would make sense to parents in? And I thought, well, the main ones, which you've already hit on, are not getting kids to go to sleep and hitting, biting, scratching, those sorts of behaviours as well, which so both of those, the main paradigm would, or go-to for most parents would be stop being naughty or misbehaving, or you can't do this and this and this.
Yes.
And so it leads straight into a punishment or a timeout or a you have to go to bed, you're left in your bedroom, whatever it is probably our main toolkit in society because we don't know of anything else.
Yeah. Yes.
So can you do a flip for us in an attachment play style on how you would approach kids not going to sleep and kids hitting, biting, scratching, that sort of thing?
I'd love to. Can I even add in the swearing one, or, swearing?
Yes, I'd love it to.
Yeah. Because I really love that. And I actually saw on Facebook this morning, someone had posted a thing like, every time my kids swear, they put $1 in the pot and, we got $3 billion this week. And I know it's a funny joke, but it really, your story, Bridget, really helped me remember it's just the opposite way to what we've grown up with, that culture of if our child's doing something challenging, we need to kind of disconnect, we need to get harsh, that's where we've come from.
And it's also, the more you're triggered by something, the more they're going to push that button. So if I'm removing any charge I have around him using those words, he's not going to need to use them. It'll be a stage for him and he'll move past it.
Exactly. And I love that. And that's what happens, and I'm sure you found that, Bridget, is the more... And Julie, with your 3 kids and all that experience you've had, is the more when they bring these things to us, they're actually saying, and I think of that with the sleep too and the hitting and biting, they're actually saying, Mum, Dad, I've got something going on here. Like Bridget, I love your example. I'm just learning how to poo in the toilet, and gosh, so taking a lot, and I see, younger kids don't do that yet, and I see there's people have got big feelings around poo, and will you play a few games with me around this so I can laugh about it and I can understand it and I can feel peaceful? about it with me. But they don't say that, do they? They come and they say, poo-poo bum-bum head, poo-poo bum-bum head.
Yeah. And I think, we're so quick as parents and society to try and encourage young children to use their words, which is, it's impossible. They don't yet have the grasp of language and so they'll use behaviours which we often don't see or hear or know how to understand.
Exactly. But I like to see, they're constantly asking us, help me with this, I need, and the more we go in and connect with them and actually help them with those things and help them feel connected. And as you say, the more we can, offload all our kind of fear about it so we can really go in and engage with that, they can release whatever's causing that so that they actually then stop doing that behaviour, not because we've put on the top this kind of shame or blame or punishment or disconnection or whatever it is, but because they've healed from that thing from the root cause. So same with sleeping and hitting or biting. So sleeping, it's such a classic one, and you've both already talked about that, and you, Julie, in particular, we have such this paradigm of not trusting our children, don't we, in a way, from our cultures. Like, we need to be the ones that make them feel calm. We need to do all this stuff to them to make them feel calm. Meanwhile, they're doing all this stuff to try to try and actually use this natural mechanism they have to feel calm, which is they'll jump on the bed, or they'll run around the house, or they'll we'll kind of kneel over to get something, and they'll jump on our backs, and we'll start going, oh my God, why won't you just calm down? And inside they're going, yes, Mum, that is exactly what I'm trying to do, but you're just not seeing it.
Yes.
They're such teachers.
So getting kids to sleep with an attachment play flip, how would you...
Yes, so thank you for bringing me back. So it's really meeting them where they're at. So, of course, I wouldn't invite this if they're actually already feeling calm, or maybe they're crying. So they'll often cry before bed as well because, again, it's this natural healing release mechanism. So obviously if they're already crying or they're already calm, I wouldn't invite you to go in and start doing this massive attachment play. But if it's really meeting them. So if they're actually starting to show us in their behaviour that they're jumping on the bed or they're running around and being goofy and silly, it's actually us going in and meeting them at where they're at. So it's much more powerful. It's like high octane, as I call it. When we go in and connect, it's like 25 times more powerful in helping them release. So if they're running around the house, can you be goofier than them? Can you go and, put on a pair of glasses upside down, or put a pair of knickers on your head and run around the house with them going, playing a power reversal game? You won't ever catch me. You'll never catch me. No, you'll never, ever catch me. And then they catch you and we fall over and we kind of, say, how did you catch me? How did you do that? And you'll never do that again. And, running around again with them until they're laughing and feeling so joyful, like, wow, haven't I got this amazing mum or dad who will actually engage with me in this? So the power is of really connecting. And then is also, sometimes then we might need to set a loving limit. So they could probably catch up with hours of play because we're serious and we kind of get frustrated. And so you may not be able to do a whole long chunk of attachment play in one night. They may have more play to do. So there might be a time where we do say, sweetheart, I'm not going to play anymore and I'd really like you to go to bed. And no, I'm not going to play that game anymore. And then they might have a big cry. And instead of that saying, it will all end in tears, which is a terrible thing, it's like, fantastic, it will all end in tears. They have a massive cry. And then they'll sleep, massively calmly. They'll probably sleep the whole night through. They'll be relaxed. They'll be connected. And it's a very different kind of experience.
Do you know what I love about that is I often think when I've offered to, well, certainly even Bridget and I have had these conversations, when you've offered up a moment of attachment play where you've created, one, an aspect to hit those feelings in the sweet spot,
yes.
Two, the ability to create connection with you as the parent, that we sometimes can get into the mindset that we expect that now I've put in the hard yards, now they're going to do what I want. But instead what often happens, and now, so our play, I always allow a period of time afterwards for if.
Yes.
Often once we've hit that connection and that sweet spot of vulnerability, there's going to be emotion that also flows out from that. And that is why I love your concept of loving limits too, which is putting in place, I suppose, a boundary that allows them to crash against and you're willing to hold what that is. That otherwise, if you had not, one, hit the connection to get them to attach, to meet that emotion,
Yes.
and 2, the ability to put in place an aspect for them to create those feelings to come out, would have just stored somewhere in their body.
Exactly, yeah. And
So-
that's why they do all those things like, in their sleep, they're all tensing their muscles, or they're tossing and turning, or they're sucking their thumb, or they're clutching onto a blanket, or they're, clutching onto us and won't let us go all night long, or they're wanting the boob, 15 times. All those things are really just saying, I'm actually kind of holding on to all these feelings exactly that you're talking about. So.
Yes. So also hitting, biting, and
yes. So again, so I like to take it back to us again, as you know, that all of us, I'm sure we have had times where we've kind of been a bit harsh with our kids. Maybe we've shouted, or we've kind of been a bit punitive, or, we've done something we regret. We've kind of just got to that point where we're so frustrated and we're so powerless and we're so beyond our limit that we do something like that. Have you two ever had an experience like that? Because I certainly have.
Yes.
And our listeners too. And it's really seeing, if someone said to you, you shouldn't do that, you should never speak harshly to your child, it's really not helpful for them. Would you go, oh, of course, great, well, I'll never ever do that again, and you'll never do that ever again? Does that happen for us?
It's not possible, right? Like,
it's possible.
It's not.
It's not about information. It's not that they don't know that biting hurts. It's not, even very small children know that, even toddlers know that. So they're not doing it because they don't understand, which of course we often go in with, be gentle, we go in with information. And it's just like someone saying to us, you shouldn't, speak harshly to your child. Well, we know that already. It's not because we don't have information. It's the same with them. It's not usually a lack of information. Sometimes it is, but rarely. It's because they're often feeling those similar feelings that we're feeling. They're feeling frustrated, they're feeling scared, they're feeling powerless. And often it doesn't look like that. But if you think about us when we get shouty, often doesn't look like we're feeling scared or powerless or frustrated, does it? It looks like we're actually kind of enjoying it almost, because it's like, same for them. So it's really seeing in that moment what they're actually needing is, again, it's the same thing with the sleep. They need connection, and they need a way to release the feelings that are actually causing that behaviour. So again, it's either through laughter or through tears. Yes.
So can we get an example on, if you have a child that's hitting you,
yes,
or other children, how you would deal with that through an attachment play method?
Yeah. So you can either, with attachment play, so you can always go in with attachment play or loving limits. So you could go in with attachment play, you can get in and be the less powerful one. So you could get in and do a pillow fight, or you could get in with a pillow and go, oh no, I'm a poor wee. This is from Sam Cooming. I'm a poor wee pillow. Don't hit me. You're not going to hit me, are you? No. And what you're really aiming to do is they'll come and hit the pillow. And it's not that, often that people say, well, go and hit a pillow. It's not the hitting the pillow that does it. It's getting to release that sense of powerlessness through hitting the pillow when we're pretending to be the powerless one. Or we might go in and go, I can see you really need a rumble on the bed, and kind of scooping them up, or, inviting them. And of course you want to stop the hitting straight away, but, really inviting them to come in and do some rough and tumble play on the bed. Or,
I'm just having a flashback to my son when he was probably 3 or 4, so probably about Hugo's age. I remember being at this birthday party, and he was on the jumping castle, and there was another boy similar age on there. And they'd obviously got into some situation. They started hitting each other. Yes. And the normal parenting thing, right, would to be come in, separate, tell them off, get them to apologise, blah, blah, blah. So I came around and I was like, okay. And so I went, hey, come and pick on someone your own size. And I had my little punching gloves up, with my fist in front of my hand. And all of a sudden it switched those 2 boys from wanting to hit each other to aligning themselves together in an alliance against a common, let's say in inverted commas, enemy. And we played wrestling, and the 2 of them played beautifully for the rest of the party.
Yes. Brilliant.
So that's another example, is particularly with siblings, or even, do you know what, even Bridget was over at my house, Friday.
Yes.
And her youngest, Hugo, and my youngest, Lola, were having issues sharing and playing together. It was this constant, thing.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden my son, who's 10, came in and started playing a chasey game with them. And it was like this instant switch. All of a sudden they both had, again, a common cause to get Heath.
Yes.
And all of the frustration that they had together disappeared.
And they were a little team. It was like, come on, Lola, come on, Hugo. And they were just trying to run away from Heath. It was gorgeous.
So it's also creating connection, or flipping the lack of connection and creating a common alliance or a purpose for being in play.
Yes, brilliant. And of course, what I love what you're saying is what happened there in both those scenarios is they got to feel connected and release the feeling, whatever feelings that were causing them to be kind of, not share or hit each other, and release those through laughter and play. So then you didn't need to, whereas if we go in, as you say, with we don't hit and separate and be a bit punitive, those feelings are still there. So they're likely to keep trying to release them like every 10 minutes. And that's, of course, when we get frustrated. Whereas this actually, you're actually going in at the root cause and actually shifting what's causing it in the first place, which is why it's so brilliant.
So one of the last questions I wanted to ask you, Marion, was one, can you share any really golden moment breakthroughs that you can just think back on with clients, if you can share, or with yourself, and you go, wow, the impact and power of that situation just profoundly hits my heart?
Well, I suppose one that's, I've got so many and just so grateful to get to do this work, but I'd love to share too. But anyway, I shared this one from my attachment play course. One of the women who did the course, she was kind of battling with her son. He was a similar age, about 2 to 3, and just starting to feel disconnected and losing that joy. And she did the course, and I interviewed her a couple of weeks ago, and she just become this like amazing expert in attachment play, way more competent at it than I am. And she talked about how, those moments where you might, your child might be in the bath and you might be just sitting on the phone or something. And she talked about, how we can miss the most magical moments of childhood, and actually just, bringing back the magic and the joy and the love for our children. And she just done that through just kind of really running with these ideas herself, and just bringing so many funny, playful games into her day with her son throughout. She works full time, but the quality and the level of connection that the two of them have is just like, it's just joy to my heart.
And that's really beautiful too, because I know that there's a lot of sort of, in inverted commas, mother guilt around, the working mother scenario, or, not being there for their children, but it's simply just getting past that label to see how can I use...
It's creating conscious connection.
It really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So in my other question...
High octane, that's what I love. Rather than thinking we should be present 24 hours a day, is actually the power of things like attachment play or connection, that high octane connection, which actually is kind of more powerful than that diluted, I'm going to try and give to you all the time and not meet my needs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's actually more powerful and more effective.
So true, Marion. The last question I had for you was, so we've done this huge wrap up of holding space and spaciousness and conscious play and all of this amazing, profound stuff that's influenced, well, all three of us here.
Thank you to Aletha Salter. Should we say that?
Yes, we should. Yes. The godmother of aware parenting.
Yes.
Is, what would you say to the exhausted or strung out mother or parent who there's something about this that she loves and that resonates and she'd love, in inverted commas, to be able to do, but she's stuck here and she's exhausted and strung out? What would you say to her?
I just think if we have no joy in our life because we're in that old paradigm that we can't give to ourselves and we need to be at the bottom of the list, and our needs aren't important and valuable, and really just to see, is there any way we can flip it around to actually, the more we can do things that fill up our cup, that bring us alive, that we find joyful. And that might be just, even if you're a single mum, like, I don't know, taking a child to the beach and watching the sunset, or, just doing things that will bring joy into our lives, which then actually help us feel more connected and joyful. Then these kind of things actually start being much more easy and doable. It's really hard to do attachment play when your cup is completely empty and you have no joy. But so it's really, again, it's just back to valuing ourselves enough to to bring in some spark, or it might be even just putting on a song in the morning that you really love and dancing around the kitchen. Or, you know, if you do have a partner or you have friends and support, taking that time out to do a dance class or a yoga class or a painting class, or, you know, swim or you know, ski if you live in, I don't know, Canada or something. That is what gives us natural joy, so that we can bring the joy back to our kids.
I love that, Marion. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us today. We would love for you to do a wrap now of how all our beautiful listeners can connect with you.
Oh, thank you. So I have my main website is marionrose.net, and I have links there to pretty much all my free and paid courses, and I have a few, like, you know, self-compassion for mothers and get free from guzzling guilt, which might be interesting for your listeners. Yeah. And my attachment play course has just started, the live round, but you can still join in. It's attachmentplaycourses.com/join in. But if you just go to attachmentplaycourses.com, you can find there's lots of freebies. There's a free ebook. There's a free webcast that you can kind of get started on. And Aletha's website is awareparenting.com. Her book is attachmentplay.com. So, you know, there's lots of great free resources. Come and have a look at my website. Got lots of articles and YouTube videos and blah-de-blah-de-blah. But, you know,
it's really true. Yeah. So it's marionrose.net, mothering with meaning.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Marion. We really, really appreciate you joining us today and sharing your wisdom. And I'm sure that there's so much richness in this podcast for our listeners. So, yeah, we're just really grateful to have you on.
Oh, thank you both so much. I just love the work you're doing in the world and the beautiful mothering that you're both doing. So, yeah, sending you both lots of love.
Thank you, Marion.
Oh, thank you. Bye.
So that was our interview with Marion Rose, which we really hope you got as much out of as we did and have. And look, certainly Aware Parenting and Attachment Play has been a huge part of our self-awakening, but combined with our parenting toolkit. So if you're really wanting to expand what options you have for helping and dealing with your children, then please check all of those resources out, and we'll put those links up as well.
Yes.
And to connect with you, Bridget.
Yes, suburbansandcastles.com.
Your upcoming movie.
Yes, it's called Polyfaces, A World of Many Choices. So it's looking at food production and how we can, I guess, a new way of looking at how we can live in symbiotic with the environment. And it's a really, really great story on a farm in the US. So that's what's coming up. And to connect with you, Julie,
is thepleasurenutritionist.com, and to connect with us.
Yes, and check out our course.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We're taking sign-ups at the moment, which is really exciting. So if you head to the Facebook page, you'll get all the directions from there. So our Facebook page is facebook.com/nourishing the mother.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
This has been a production of thewellnesscouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on facebook.com/thewellnesscouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.